Welcome, everyone. Tonight, we're going to be meeting with Lori Josephson, who is the author of the book, Calling All Neurons. There it is. And she has been working on this project for, gosh,
Couple years.
a couple years. It's been a dream of hers to write this book. And so when you have a goal and mission in mind, you do it. And she has been relentless. So let's start out with her bio, and then we're going to do some questions. So Lori Josephson is a dyslexia specialist, educational consultant who is a fellow of the Orton Gillingham Academy and holds a master's degree in special education learning disabilities. She has had the privilege of teaching hundreds of struggling students how to make sense of print and text. She has also had the honor of working with thousands of teachers, training them to how to teach and reach their students using methods based upon the complex brain processes involved in attaining literacy. So Lori, tell us, we want to know, why did you write this book?
Well, a good while back, I want to say maybe 30 years ago, there was a book called How You Talk, and it literally landed on my doorstep. One of my siblings was working in publishing at the time, and there it came. And it was about the mechanisms of how one spoke. It was a children's book, longer than 24 pages, and it talked about all the mechanisms related to speaking and if kids had articulation problems. And at the time, I was, teaching teachers, and I thought I used to read that book to the teachers because I always knew the language literacy connection. And I remember thinking to myself, we need to extend this to reading. We need to extend this to literacy. And I even went so far as to tell one of my colleagues, when I retire, I'm going to write this book. Well, that day came, and Science of Reading was woo, and I decided to go ahead and do it. Plus, I had my husband saying, when are you going to write that book? When are you going to write that book? And honestly, there are books out there for professionals like us. Mark Seidenberg's book, Language at the Speed of Sight, Stanislas Lehane, Mary Ann's, Wolf's books explain that to professionals who may have the time to comb through those long books. But teachers often don't. Parents certainly often don't. And there are books out there about how the brain learns to read that are for younger children, but there aren't books out there for kids who are maybe 8 and up, and who are maybe even struggling readers who really want to know why it is that reading is so hard for them when it's not hard for many of their colleagues. So I thought this book filled that niche.
And it does beautifully. So before we go with the questions, I want you to share the book because I'm sure that's why a lot of people are here.
Okay. Well, I just want to share this one picture here, and it repeats itself throughout the book because the different neurons of the brain tell the story. They're the narrators of the story, and they all have to work together in order to create a reading brain. So my illustrator, Jamie Sale, and I he drew, I spoke. He changed my thoughts into images. So here's the auditory hearing neuron. He's got little headphones on. Here's the visual neuron with a magnifying glass. Here's the language neuron because he has his graduation cap on. And here's the moving neuron because that's how we move our mouths, that's how we move our eyes, and that's how we move our hand when we write. And this is the executive function neuron who's telling everybody what to do and keeping everybody regulated. And I didn't create special neurons for the cerebellum, but in recent past, the cerebellum has also contributed to fluency development and gathering all these areas to work, all these different neurons to work together. So throughout the book, I have color-coded, these are the locations of the different neurons. And in the book, you'll see that the color coding emerges as the story is told. And where you see these yellow areas, these are where the different neurons work together. Okay, the parietal temporal lobe, Broca's area here with the speech language part. So you'll see that probably as we go along, but I wanted to share that they all really need to work together to make this happen. Does that answer your question?
Yep. How about the orthographic mapping? We all want to know.
Okay, I'm just going to show you a couple of things that I do. I actually need to, before we do that, I ask people, what did they learn about most? And like my husband, who's been around me for all those years, he said he loved how I showed the articulatory mechanism of the brain and how kids learn to speak, and how reading is different than learning to speak. So you can see that I've color coded the brain here. Okay, to show the different areas. And I find that I've been doing this with my students for a long, long time, but explaining to them how they learn to read really motivated them to learn to read. So let me see, okay, here it is. I explain the process of orthographic mapping to children like this, and I will read from it. And would you like me to keep it up, or do you want me to turn around and read it? Does it matter? It's
No,
okay.
I guess you can read it. Just read it.
Okay. Most readers and spellers who practice enough will be able to read without sounding out each letter and spell without listening for each sound. Reading and spelling become automatic, and these recognized words are known as sight words. All words want to be sight words, no matter their letter patterns. So I explain that, what are the snap words and sight words are sort of not relevant. I also talk about that reading is not about using the pictures. But back to orthographic mapping. As readers become more skilled and fluent, they use a process called orthographic mapping. And you can see that with these big long words, I've written out how to pronounce them for both the parents and the students. And I think teachers would like this book too, to motivate your students to read or to try. Since every word has three forms, its sounds or phonemes, its spelling or orthography, this is a fancy word for spelling, and its meaning. Through orthographic mapping, readers use the oral language processing part of their brain, our red neuron cousins, to map or connect the sounds, the phonemes of words they already know, to the letters or spellings in a word. This is the process which allows readers to permanently store the connected sounds and letters of words, along with their meanings, as instantly recognizable words, described as sight vocabulary or sight words. And I later go on to show the filing cabinet. Where the brain, how does the brain store all those words? Right here. So these are the words that they orthographically map, sort of like filing cabinets in your brain, which is what I told my students all the time. Okay, now some of the words obviously don't orthographically map perfectly. And those are irregular, phonetically irregular words, or words that students who may have not been taught those sound symbol patterns, those relationships quite yet. But eventually, almost all words, over 85%, are phonetically regular. And that's according to Louisa Moats.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to share from the book?
Anything else I want to share from the book? I want everybody to understand. I also go into understanding the printing text. So it's not a book that's just about phonics. A lot of people think that science of reading is only about phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and phonics. No, no, no. When kids read, we want them, this child is reading The Tortoise and the Hare. And this is what we would like children to think about as they're reading. I also talk about punctuation. I can't tell you how many students I have taught who, when they see quotation marks, they have no idea what they are. or why they're there, or if a author is trying to use conversation and one person's speaking and the next person's speaking, they were never explicitly taught what that meant.
Mhm.
So I explained that over and over and over to students, and so I thought it was important to explain that to all students. I also talk about morphology, the meaning parts of words. I talk about suffixes
Mhm.
and how you might add suffix s or suffix ed for verb tense endings. And also I talk about other suffixes. If you go to my website, actually, there's a free handout on that page that has the most common suffixes and prefixes in English. And I think I did the words too, the most common, and truly well over, I think about 60 something percent are like 3 suffixes.
Hmm.
Ing, ing, ed, suffix s or es. And the same, there are very few prefixes that or that students see over and over and over again. And many times students don't even realize that at all, that there are word affixes to words. I tested students before I retired from working directly with students. And trust me when I tell you that that's a common occurrence to struggling readers. So instead of using the word parts to help them to figure out what words mean, every time it's a new day, it's a new word when it doesn't need to be. So I also go through some Latinate roots and Greek roots and explain the importance of those.
What is your in your opinion, what was your target audience? What ages were you thinking about?
I was thinking about starting at about age 8, and it doesn't matter to me if a reader is a struggling reader, an average reader, an advanced reader. I think that having the metacognitive processes to understand what goes on in a child's brain can't do anything but help them, to motivate them. For a struggling reader, it'll give them resilience. Okay, I can read one of the reviews. Let me see if I can find it, about what somebody said to, and I think it goes all the way up to struggling readers of any age. I'm gonna need to get my glasses. And I remember what she said, but I'm going to try and read it to you anyway.
So I'm assuming this book is for teachers as well,
Yes, it's for
completely
teachers.
informative for them. Learning
Yes,
along with your kids, right?
yes, it's for teachers, it's for parents. A lot of parents do not understand. I'm sorry, I'm having a little, I saw it, honestly. I'll just
Okay.
paraphrase it. Amy Brewer is a colleague of mine, and she worked with a student who I mentored who was 14 years old. And she said, and she teaches middle school, she said, and she actually read an earlier draft of the book to her students who all thought it was worthwhile listen. And that was before the illustrations were put in. And
Oh,
I really
wow.
think that the illustrations, well, illustrate, help students to understand and parents to understand. There are so many parents who don't understand the reading process themselves. And so they try and help their children as best as they can, but it would be better if they understood what it took to create that literate brain. But
Mhm.
what Amy Brewer said, and I remember her student, he was tall, almost as tall as both of us put together. And he
Hmm.
kept saying, why is this so hard for me? And she said that she wished she would have had a book like this to use when she was working with him. And I'm talking about maybe 8 or 10 years ago
Mhm.
that she taught this young man. And he actually finished a structured literacy program, and he did go on to college, just so you know. Um, and I often, when I taught teachers, I often would draw a picture of the brain and show the
Mm.
interaction between the different parts of the brain and go into that to help the teachers to be able to explain it to their students. But I feel that my book does a better job because I maybe had about 10 minutes to do that.
Mhm.
This book is 98 pages long, but the whole last part of it is actually, there's also a glossary back here. glossary of important terms.
Mhm.
That goes through everything from auditory cortex to background knowledge, to the jobs of the different parts of the brain, to what fluency is
Mm.
and what it is not, and which neurons help with that, to what language is, to what a neuron is. I also have 6-syllable patterns in here, which I know some people say we don't need to teach them, but it's still important to have some recognition of them. And it does help a lot of students. And then I have additional notes. And part of what I like about my book, especially, is that I have some QR codes in it. So when I'm explaining what sound blending is, what sound segmentation is, there's a QR code and you can just go on and demonstrate. I have a child demonstrating those
Mhm.
little phonological awareness activities. And we all know that the most important areas of phonological awareness are sound blending, sound segmentation.
Right. I
Okay,
can definitely see this with kids, even in high school, that have
yeah.
been,
Mm.
that are struggling readers and, that never understood what was going on. And they always blame themselves if they even got through high school, right? I mean,
Yes, it's traumatic for these children.
sure.
And the last QR code I want to talk to you about is, I thought about doing a bibliography, but I wanted it to be a living item. So I used a QR code instead, and it brings you to the resources section of my website, which has all of, as close as I can to all of the sources that I use to
Mhm.
create the book.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know, you probably all know that Marianne Wolf, I was so excited when Marianne wrote to me and said that she would endorse my book.
Yay.
Author of Reader Comes Home. I was also excited when Donna said she would endorse my
Aw.
book. Oh yeah, of course.
Of course.
So, but Marianne Wolf is nationally known. I don't know about, I mean, and known before you were known, Donna. Now you're known. But anyway, I couldn't sleep the whole night. Marianne Wolf lives in California. So she wrote to me, but when I saw the email, it was like, I was literally in bed already. It was like 11:30 at night.
Oh my
I didn't,
gosh.
I didn't sleep the entire night. I was so excited.
I bet. So tell us where we can get this wonderful book.
We can get it on my website through Ingram Smart. There's a page on my website, and watch for new and different graphics and some content on my website, because now that I'm a real author, I'm going to turn it into an author website. But there's a page on there, which I created all by myself. I'm proud to tell you that. You can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
Uh, and I know some places have actually purchased it, because you can sort of tell. So I don't know, I'm trying to get it to be in the gift shop of the Planet Word Museum in Washington, DC, which is all about language. Have you been there, Tony? Is it fabulous?
It's absolutely fabulous. I got to go there with the Reading League Pennsylvania. So we went as a large group.
Yeah, Erin invited me, but I don't think she realizes that I live in Florida. So it wasn't very close, but I'm dying to go myself. And I wrote to them, and I'm actually going to be in the area next week. So I'm hoping they write back to me, or maybe I'll just pop in. I don't know, but that's the goal, is to get it into as many. When you write a book, it's not about earning money. So just don't go there. I'm no Jodi Picoult. Forget that. But I want to get this in the hands of as many people as possible, because there are so many students who could benefit from it.
It's so true.
So,
All right. Well, thank you so much for this sharing of your book. And we hope that we could open it up for questions from our viewers. Anyone have a question for Lori? Or a comment?
do you
So
want to,
I have a
know how
comment.
hard it is to publish a book? Anybody out here? It's hard.
That's
It's
why I chose to go with a Facebook page.
really hard. And for those of you who might not have seen me on Facebook, I was lucky enough to be hacked a couple of weeks ago.
Hmm.
So I hope to be I hope to be back on soon. It might be a different name, but I'll be back on.
Yeah, we hope to have you back too. Tony, what were you going to say?
I was going to say I did purchase the book.
Oh,
And I am working with a very, very smart 7th grader. And he was my practicum student for Wilson, and I continue to work with him. And we chose to read a chapter out of your book for his connected text reading. And I let him pick the part that he wanted to read, and he found it very fascinating because he
Oh,
was one of those kiddos who just couldn't understand why he wasn't getting this.
oh, that's interesting.
which part did he read? Which part did he choose?
Wait, I will tell you. He wanted to read, we understand the printed text.
Ah, that's right. I did not mention that I have the whole thing laid out in chapters. Here it is. So I have,
Mm.
use your noodle, and the executive function guide narrates that, why we want to know. And then all the different neurons show, we do this, we do that, and they nudge each other and they push each other and they say, no, it's my turn. And then you really realize that they work together. Thank you so much, Tony. That was really gratifying.
Carrie wants to know if you thought about translating it into other languages.
Who does?
Carrie McGinn.
Carrie, what languages do you suggest? I would have to hire somebody to do that. I guess I could use Google Translate.
You could.
I hadn't really thought about it.
Spanish.
I guess I'll think about it. Great
Thanks for
question.
the thought, Carrie. Really,
Good
that's
thought. I mean,
Mhm.
it's based a lot on English on the one hand, so it would not be something that could be like snap, 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 Google Translate translatable, because there are different phonemes and different, but it wouldn't be too hard. I wouldn't think.
You have to look into that.
I guess I have to
And
look into that.
Donna Perry
Like you
says
guys, I'm on summer break, you guys. A
you're
little bit.
never on a break.
Well,
Donna Perry says, I love the graphics. Great job, Lori. So many of our ELs learn to read in English. That's interesting. Oh, here's an interesting thought. More work for you. Sharon says, this is awesome. It would be wonderful for children to see an animated version to understand how the brain helps them read. Well, Lori's got you covered.
I'm gonna have to collect some funding to do that.
If you didn't know that, Lori put out a what do you call that you did?
It's a video. Learning how to
Video.
read with Reese. It's very, very affordable. I did it before the book, and it's for younger children. It's called Learning How to Read with Reese, and you can find it on my website. And I did do, at Donna's suggestion, a study guide.
Ah, that's right.
That, Donna?
Yes, I do. What's your website again?
It's LoriJosephson.com, soon to be
Okay.
an author website. I wouldn't mind doing school visits. I wouldn't mind doing a lot of that kind of thing, book signings.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And I have children all over the country, adult children and grandchildren now. So I get around a lot.
There you go, folks. She just asked for, to come to your school. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been to schools, but
I
I'm going to
know.
start locally in Florida and see how it goes.
Miss the kids, huh? Okay, excellent. All right, Teresa. Yep.
Share, everybody. Share with your administrators. Just share, because I think that the literacy development of our country is so important because it affects what happens socially and economically in our country. And I think it's important.
Donna, one last question. Donna wants to know, is the study guide on your website?
The
There's
study guide to the video.
the video.
If you purchase the video, I think it's about $15. I never raised the
Yeah,
price.
it was
You
$15
get
for the video.
you get the whole package. And if you have trouble buying it, I haven't looked at that page, just be in touch with me and I'll help you. there's a contact on my website and I'll get it and I'll know. Mm.
Oh, the AIM Symposium, Tony suggested. Ooh.
I like Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's a thought. Oh, we'll have
Next
to talk
March.
about that. All right.
Always,
Thank you.
that's one of the conferences I always listen into.
Yeah, and it's free. So yeah, why not, right?
Mhm.
All right, folks, thank you for joining tonight and taking time out of your busy schedules to hear Lori share her book. I appreciate that, and she appreciates it too, I'm sure.
I do. Thank you all. I know a couple of you. And I,
Website in the chat. Let me do that.
yes.
Let me do that for y'all. Is it dot or just one big word?
What?
Your website.
LoriJosephson.com. One big word.
Okay, right there.
You know, I want everyone to break it down into syllables.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, no one wants to do my name, so. Right?
Last time I saw you on a Zoom, I think I heard your name butchered quite a bit.
I'm sure. All right, good night, folks. It was nice seeing
Night, have a great night. Thank you all. Go get it.
you. All right.